Happy Monday, everybody. It's another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin. And Mike, it is my favorite time of the year.
Did you see the promo that the U of A put out, the little 8, 12 second, 15 seconds with the NCAA music?
No!
Yeah, it's really cool. It's got them dancing. It's got Cal yelling, and it's really cool.
Somebody sent that to me. Somebody sent that to me.
It really got me pumped up. I saw it on my phone last night and thought, March Madness is here.
Oh, man.
It was great.
Gosh. I'm so excited, Mike, and I'm so excited to dive in to this Ask Mike, because what are the questions about? None other than March Madness and the draw that the Hogs got on Selection Sunday yesterday. So our first question is from H.L. McCamish, who says, the selection committee made us sweat. They did. And it ticks me off that Georgia is a 9 seed and Mississippi State is an 8 seed. We have the same record and beat both of them. Thought the regular season was supposed to count more.
There's always inconsistency with these people. And you know, look, the bracket wasn't exactly what some of these had predicted, although Lenardi did come close. I mean, he predicted Arkansas as a 10 seed. I think you could argue over stuff like this. I wanted to see Arkansas go to Wichita because I wanted the fans to have a chance to go up there, because that's really what makes March Madness work. If you can play all those times that Nolan, you know, was winning, a lot of times you were going to Dallas or you were going somewhere close, Oklahoma City. So it was fun to be able to do that. But it didn't work out that way. I think when you look at this bracket where they got sent, I think it's pretty good. I don't think you could have done much better.
Maybe UCLA. Maybe that 7-10 matchup with UCLA. Yeah. Maybe, if you want to argue that. But I think you're right on there.
So I don't think it's anything to quibble about. And look, what did Cal say about this? He talked to his players before the bracket was announced. And he said, look, guys, it doesn't matter where they send us, because this is what we've been doing all year. It doesn't matter what the odds were, whether it looks like we can't win this or do that. We just go play. And so I think that was a good thing to say to them.
They're dancing. They're dancing. That is the end-all be-all.
And what's happening, you're seeing all these Razorback fans that months ago the Kentucky fans were saying, see you in the NIT after Arkansas beat them. Yeah, enjoy being in the NIT.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're wrong about that.
Hey, Mike, there were Kentucky fans messaging me last week and saying, have fun in the NIT. And I said, oh, you really aren't keeping up with what's been going on, have you?
Well, if Arkansas goes 1 and out, they'll start all over again.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. And we're going to talk about that, because I think our next question is about the draw and how they look. WV Hog fan wants to know, how do you see us lining up against Kansas? And do you see us getting by St. John's and making it to the Sweet 16? I think WV Hog fans looking ahead a little bit. They got to beat Kansas first, and St. John's has got to beat Omaha.
Kansas is inconsistent. I mean, they've lost to Missouri, I think, blasted them earlier, you know, back in December or whatever. They played Houston 2 really close games, and we know how good Houston is.
Yeah, number 1 seed.
The issue is they're 10-8 in the Big 12. Arkansas is 8-10 in the SEC. But look at the difference between the two leagues. So I think, look, they're more of a defensive team, but Arkansas has played defensive teams. I mean, Vanderbilt. I would compare Kansas to Vanderbilt or Mississippi State. I remember one of the press conferences, one of the assistant coaches, I've long since forgotten which one, but he told us, we told the guys, these guys will push you back. When you have the ball, if you don't move toward the basket, they will push you back. And so Arkansas has played good defensive teams. So I think it's what I said on the Pig Trail yesterday, Pig Trail show. I've never seen an Arkansas team that's more prepared for the NCAA tournament, because every game they've played virtually has been an NCAA tournament game. Yeah. I honestly believe you could take the 2 teams that didn't get in, LSU
and South
Carolina, and stick them in this field, and they would win games.
I agree with you. There's a reason when I was doing my bracket the other day, or today actually, and somebody had said to me, Courtney, you have so many SEC teams going far. And I said, yeah, because I've watched the SEC this year, and it was a gauntlet. And so, yes, some things will happen. That's March Madness for you. But the SEC, what it's done is prepared these SEC teams to go into March Madness and play against other talent and play against other talented teams. For me, it's all about containing Hunter Dickinson, right? Because what was different in that first matchup in that exit? They didn't have him. And so he is a post presence for Kansas. He is a good player.
But we've got a defensive post presence now that didn't have.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that. What did we not have in that
Okay.
exhibition? Jonas Aidoo was not in that exhibition either.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, for Arkansas, is a big game plan.
The
is
only thing I
containing
don't
Hunter.
like is the fact that you played them before and beat them, and it was, you know, that
But
may,
you can't-
that can maybe be a negative, trying to beat somebody twice, but who knows?
But you can't compare. They were totally different
Yeah,
situations.
exactly.
Players that players were out with injury, like we said. They didn't have Hunter. We didn't have Jonas Aidoo, and so it's two different situations. There's one thing about that exhibition game. How did they beat them? Well, they got to the free throw line a lot. I think they got to the free throw line, if I can remember the stats, 18 more times.
And they don't
so-
go to the free throw line a lot statistically.
Exactly. So, again, there's a couple of things you can look at maybe in that exhibition game, but they were two different scenarios. I actually think it's a good thing that they beat them early on because I think that gives the players some confidence.
So now let's look at St. John's.
Okay, all right. Let's
We'll-
look at Rick Pitino's squad.
We were not assuming they'll win, but if they do, everybody knows Providence, what is it, 2.5 hours, something like that?
It's
from
very
from
close.
New
There's
York.
going to be a lot
So
of
they'll have
Providence
a lot
fans.
of their fans there. Here's what I noticed about St. John's. They cleaned up in the Big 8, just 18-2, beat everybody, won all their games
Yeah, the
but
Big
2.
East. Yeah.
Did I say Big?
You're good. In
Big
the Big
East.
East, you're good.
And they won the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, so they mopped up on those guys, but they lost to Georgia, a team that Arkansas beat.
I was going to say
And
that
they had a
too.
close loss to Baylor, a team that Arkansas had a close loss to. So there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
The issue to me there, when you talk about St. John's, is the difference between the Big East and the SEC. The SEC gets 14 teams in. The Big East
Oh,
gets, so used to saying Big 12.
yeah.
The Big East gets 5 teams in.
Right.
So, and then what are you talking about night in and night out as opposed to what you're used to playing against? St. John's is not used to playing these type teams.
Nope.
So if Arkansas comes out firing on all cylinders and plays well, they can win that game.
You have to look, like you said, common opponents is a really good way to look at that. But St. John's, they're a good team. Rick Pitino's done a fabulous job there. I'm with you, Mike, though. I think it'll be a good matchup, but I think it's a team that Arkansas can take on and beat if they're firing on all cylinders. If it's a team that showed up against South Carolina,
Yeah.
nah, I'm going to take St. John's in that one, but we'll see. We're going to talk a little bit more about March Madness because I like this next question. I've gotten this question a whole lot since this news broke last week. Hog Redneck says, like a lot of fans, I'm worried about how putting Boogie Fland back into the rotation will affect the chemistry of the 7 guys who have carried this team into the NCAA tournament. If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Well, look, Cal explained a lot of this yesterday when he had a press conference after the pairings were announced. And here's basically what he said. And I'm going to look at this from 2 standpoints. To me, the biggest concern to me is not team chemistry, that he will somehow interrupt team chemistry. That's what everybody says. They've won without him. Now you put him back into the mix. Oh,
How is it going to work?
It'll screw
Exactly.
everything up. To me, the biggest problem with him is I try to picture what it's like to sit out for 2.5 months and then practice 4 or 5 times and then you're in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
That's like tough.
Very tough.
So he could do a lot in this game, but I don't expect him to just because of that. So what did Cal say about that? He said, look, we're going to play it by ear. If he goes out there and we put him on the floor and the team is scoring points and we're doing well with him out there, he'll stay out there. If he goes out there and it's causing an issue, he's not doing what he needs to do, they're taking advantage of him or whatever, you very quickly will go to the bench. We'll just play it by ear.
Yeah.
So what possibly could he add if he plays a lot better than we think he would after missing all that time? I think, and a lot of people are speculating, that he won't come back as a point guard. He will come back as a shooting guard because they've noticed back when he was playing, he was a lot better when somebody else set him up for a shot than creating his own shot.
Yeah.
And even he used to drive to the basket, but then he'd get his shot blocked. If somebody else is driving to the basket, like Wagner, and then passes it over him to the other side, then the layup tends to go in because they don't have much time to get over and block the shot. So I think there's some possibilities there.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing in my mind is I've never seen a guy sit out that long and then your first game back is that? Nick Smith Jr. sat out a lot, but he got to play in some regular season games after that, and he didn't do very well.
Yeah, I remember,
he came on a little bit at the end, but it was it's tough when you've sat out that long to somehow just suddenly integrate yourself back into a team.
Any player will tell you that.
So there may be another reason why Cal is doing this, and we got a question about it.
Oh, okay. I want to also say this. What I like about it, something that you didn't mention there, what does this team need right now? Depth.
They need depth.
They need depth.
Especially, and we don't know, not Jacob, it was Evan that told me this. He said that he asked Big Z before, while you guys were out, while they were out
there, yeah.
He asked him, hey, what about your thumb, blah, 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 or whatever the problem was, fingers or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not a problem, it's not a problem. Well, he could have just been saying that. So he hasn't played well since that happened. So that could be another factor. If you're down to really 6 guys, definitely getting another guy back could help.
You need that depth right now.
But
and even if you take you say, hey, he might play as a shooting guard, that's fine and dandy and everything, but if you need him to play point, you don't have to put so much pressure on DJ. DJ can take a break. You have someone that can come in and take some of those minutes that you're confident in.
I'm just skeptical that he can do much.
I know.
Okay.
I understand.
I think there may be something else behind this.
I think you're right, Mike, and we're going to get into that.
And I thank Jacob partly for this because he reminded me of something I didn't know about.
Okay, all right. I love that. Okay, let's go into that question because it's right here. Marty Bird's Proxy asked, I thought Seth Davis, his comment about Boogie Fland coming back, basically saying it was to get a break from the selection committee was tacky, or some of the national media that hostile towards Cal?
Yeah, it looks like it didn't have anything to do with being hostile toward Cal, because if you look at West Virginia, and I'm taking Jacob's word on this because he follows the bracketologist guys. I look at, 2 or 3 of these guys. I don't look at all of them. Yeah. And he says that however many there are, 6, 7, however many, he said they all had West Virginia as a 10 seed.
Yep.
And they didn't get in.
Yep. And now they're suing, right?
And the reason given by this one committee guy afterward was, well, they had the coach's son got a season-ending injury back in December, and said that would affect them. Well, they played essentially all of their conference games without him and got where they were. So it's an idiotic explanation.
Very stupid.
But Cal may have been aware of that, and now what did he have? He had the top 2 scorers on the team out.
Yep.
And again, when we say that out loud, you say to yourself, holy crap, how did they get to where they are?
We don't know.
Without the top 2 scorers. So you can see some bimbo. I've always said that these selection committee guys go in there and they got like tacos and everything all around on the table, and they got mixed drinks, and they just get in there and talk and do a bunch of crazy stuff, because some of the stuff they come up with is nuts.
Look at FSU as a great example over on the football side of things. Why were they left out a few years ago? What was the explanation?
Yes.
They were riddled with injuries. Jordan Travis was injured, right? You use that same thing.
But it's more of a factor when you got a 4-team playoff. I could see why it was done in football,
sure.
But not basketball, not with 64 teams. Come on, you're not. No, this team had played well enough to get in there all along.
I agree with you. I'm just saying you have to look at what.
I think rather than this guy disrespecting Cal, I think he knew what was going on there and probably thought Cal's pretty smart for doing that, because he's kind of countered this idea that your top 2 scorers won't play.
If you looked at what the national media, some national media members said when that news came out, I said the same thing too, sitting here going, that's mighty good timing to announce that Boogie Fland will be back and hopefully playing in the first round game.
I don't think he was saying that to inspire Razorback fans.
No.
I think he was sending a message to the committee.
And saying, look, we're going to have one of these guys back.
Right.
Maybe I can't promise Thero back for this one, but I can say that Boogie will be back.
3 or 4 days ago, I was talking about how stupid that was. The committee wouldn't do that. They wouldn't be that ignorant. And then they did prove they are that ignorant.
Yeah, sorry. What, West Virginia?
So I'll never respect the committee again. They're a bunch of drunk guys.
Well, I don't think you could say they're a bunch of
drunk we don't know what they do in that room.
We don't.
But I just suspect they get in there and party a little bit. I think they've got, here's what I think. I think they got people doing all the tough work.
Oh my gosh.
I do. I think they've got some nuts and bolts guys that sit there all along as it gets down toward the end. They're looking at, And I think they basically flesh this thing out, and then those guys get in there and go, what are you going to do here? Okay, I think, West Virginia's out. They got a guy that's hurt. Yeah, but he's been hurt. No matter.
But they might have done that with Arkansas.
Look,
they might have done that with
I will
Arkansas.
say this till the day I die. I hate people voting on who gets into anything. Yeah. Think about it. Think about this. Start at the high school football level, basketball level. Do these people get into the playoffs because somebody votes for them? They have a formula that gets you in. You win this, you win that, you automatically qualify. You could apply that to everything. You could. Rather than having these mysterious guys sitting behind closed doors, getting to decide this. Yep, nope, they're out, they're in, nope. I just hate it. I hate it. You should get into the playoffs based on a formula where you do certain things that get you in. When I was in high school, you only got one team in the district to the playoffs for football. And we knew if we didn't beat Denver City, we weren't going. And we didn't go. And it was very simple.
Well,
it wasn't. We didn't sit around and wait for some schmo to go, I think, they might get in. I don't know. This guy was hurt, though. No.
It's all about the drama, though. I mean, come on. It's March Madness. People love the drama. That's why they watch.
I don't love that. I hate that part of it.
I know you don't love that, but that's because you're a true sports fan, and there's some casual fans out there that go, I love the drama, but West Virginia should have been in. I think what I was reading on social media today, if that's true, and they are suing the NCAA,
well,
I think that's great.
That'd be
I think
good.
it's wonderful. Yeah, I think it's great.
I'd sue them. I'd sue the individual guys in the room. I'd sue them for money.
Why not?
I want your car.
Yeah, that was a terrible answer that you gave us.
Each guy on this team gets a car.
Oh, my goodness, Mike, I love it. Hot Dogger says, I try not to put too much into the SEC tournament and the announcers who call the games, but these guys seem biased towards South Carolina. They barely mentioned Arkansas and called out the referees, missed and bad calls that favored the Gamecocks.
Okay, look, I'm probably nuts, but I agree. I agree with him. I did notice that.
All right.
And I was sitting there thinking, why? Why is that going on? And the answer to me was obvious. It's a better story. You got this South Carolina team that's they're at the bottom and all this, but they won two games against good teams toward the end. So, if you get them into the tournament and they start winning games, it's wow, look at them do that. Look at them do that.
It's a good storyline, yeah.
Yeah, so I noticed they did it a lot less when Arkansas played Ole Miss. It wasn't they didn't go to Ole Miss quite as much as they went to South Carolina. I think that's what they were doing. They were pumping up a possible whack-a-mole upset thing. Well, I mean, can you imagine how crazy it would be?
It would have been crazy.
If South Carolina goes all the way.
And honestly, that would have been crazy. And then if you watched how South Carolina, the players after reacted to they were on the floor crying. There was tears flowing. It was emotional because they knew there was a lot on the line if they could go through and win.
It's the end of their season if they don't win that game. So, I think they latched onto that. But I will also have to do this because I just can't stop myself.
Okay, let's hear it.
I hate ESPN.
I know you do.
I hate I wish the SEC could divorce themselves from those people, that they didn't have anything to do with the games, that there was something called Something Else 3. I like the fact that ESPN has all these baseball games and all this stuff, women's softball. I like that part of it, but I don't like them. I want somebody else to do it because they just mess everything up.
Yeah, I know you do. And people agree with you there because there are some people, when you talked about muting the announcers, people were telling in the comments, oh my gosh, Mike, I do the same thing. So there you go. You have a lot of people that agree with you.
Well, I also do that because a lot of times I'm at home and my wife is yelling at me, and if I have that down, I can hear what she says.
Oh, there you go. Well,
so because she has a bad habit of standing downstairs and yelling stuff, and I'm supposed to understand what she's talking about. Well, I can sort of do that if I don't have my phone, and I can only get ESPN3 on my phone. Welcome to my world, which is whack-a-mole.
Mike, I can set it up on your TV for you.
No, you can't. I've tried. I'm telling you, there's something really, it's too complicated to explain, but it's on my phone. It's not on my TV, so I just sit there and watch this on my phone. I don't have it with me. I bought a new Galaxy 25 Ultra. Because it's bigger and fancier.
And you get big screen.
Just so I can watch ESPN3 on it. And it's got a new kind of screen on it. It's OLED.
It's a really nice screen. It is.
So, but anyway, that's why I turn the sound down too. I don't like to listen to them, but I also have to hear if my wife's yelling at me.
Absolutely. Speaking of the SEC and people, criticisms of it, KY Hog wants to know if the SEC is now the best basketball conference, is it time to get better referees? There you go.
I've been saying this probably for about 10 years, but mostly about football.
Yes.
Because the SEC has always been a good football conference, and they've always had terrible referees for football.
Yeah.
But now that it's equally good in basketball, I think you see the same thing. And again, I watched most of the SEC tournament, not just Arkansas games. So I'm not looking at this from a prejudicial standpoint. I'm just looking at a lot of those games. I don't care who wins them. But I just noticed it looked like at times these guys were just going through the motions. Now maybe they get tired. It's a lot of games in a few days, and they're older guys and they're tired, and they don't see traveling hardly ever. And you're looking at that going, that guy took 4 steps. What are you doing here? Yeah. They anticipate fouls that sometimes aren't fouls. A guy makes a great play, blocks a shot, and he gets called a foul for it. So what does that tell you? Don't play defense, just let the guy score? So I think, and I don't watch a lot of referees from other conferences, but I got to believe they're better. I'm just going to say that. There's no proof of that.
Well, you said it, and I think it was maybe a few episodes back. We talked about refereeing, and we talked about how they don't get paid very much, and we talk about all the training that they go through and things like that. But there needs to be better.
Well, the solution to this would be, and again, don't get me started on how much money the SEC has, because it's like, we got to have more. We got to have more. You got to always have
refs better. Get better quality refs.
Use some of that TV money to make these people full time. You could hire full-time refs, bring them in, make them come to work 8 hours a day. They don't just mess around in the off season. They could come in during the off season and review games and discuss where you missed this and how you could do this better and that better, and look at mistakes that were made. And just constantly review themselves, have somebody in there with them, a supervisor of officials who works with them. And if they did this full time, I promise you it would get better.
I think so too.
And I think they should do it with football. Now, here's what's weird to me. I notice far less problems with baseball than I do some of these. Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And now some of it's they got the replay, and in baseball, the replay can solve a lot of problems. Yeah. But I don't see the goofiness and just SEC umpires out there going, what happened? I didn't see that. Maybe that's just me, but I see less. I have less issues with what I see with SEC baseball games than basketball or football.
No, interesting. I wonder if everybody agrees with you on that. Redleg says, I was surprised to see Mike Neighbors resign. Who do you hope Yurachek goes after to fill that role? My fingers are crossed for Molly Miller of Grand Canyon. She seems to be the real deal.
Okay, we've got our own theory, and I didn't talk to you about this.
No, you didn't. So we had different sources on this,
right? Different sources, but we're hearing the same thing. Yeah. The word out there for a few days now has been, well, she's not Hunter Yurachek's first choice.
Yes, because I will give credit to the writer who tracked down that story. Ethan Westerman put that out.
And that's been the word, that she's not even the first choice. So forget it. Because
done. It's
he
over.
wants somebody, Hunter wants somebody with SEC experience. Okay, but stop and think about this. This woman is still, her team is in the NCAA tournament.
Correct.
She can't be talking about a job or any of that stuff while this is going on. It'd be terrible for her players. I don't think she'd ever forgive herself if the players came back later and said, we think we could have won more games, but all this stuff was disruptive. Yeah. So if Hunter Yurachek puts out the word, no, she's not our first choice. I don't know where you're coming from on that. Take some of the pressure off, and we think that's maybe what's going on there. And maybe what happens is after they're out of the tournament, whenever it is, then we find out more.
Yeah, because here's the thing. What I know from my sources is that Hunter met with her. I know that they have said Hunter has met with her. That she was the first, that when everything broke about Mike Neighbors, her name popped up immediately. Another writer from another location that covers Grand Canyon and that stuff, or covers women's basketball, I think, nationally, came out and said they are looking at her. Now she's looking, and now she's choosing between Arkansas and Arizona State. right? Why does all of that come out? You know, why does all of that break if Hunter wasn't looking at her as his first choice?
Right.
And so, again, I have heard nothing on another candidate. I have usually when, hey, she's not our first choice, you hear
There's
who
some
is.
stuff about the former Tennessee coach.
Kelly Harper, yes.
Yes,
yeah,
but
we have heard some of.
we haven't heard anything about that in a while.
Well, nothing about that.
And if he
since
was
that
going to
first
hire
album.
her, couldn't he just do it now?
Yeah, he could. She's
not
just working for
she's
SEC Network as
she's
an
not
analyst.
coaching.
Nope, she's not coaching. He could hire her now. He can make that
He
announcement.
could already get a head start on recruiting.
Correct. I think it's why we've heard nothing, right? It's
Now,
radio
there is one other
silence.
possibility. I hate to bring it up
Okay,
because
let's
it's
hear it.
negative. And at the athletic department, they get mad sometimes when we do this. But
Okay.
I could say that it also could be that if the word is out on what little NIL money we have for basketball, and of course we know that's going to turn to revenue sharing, that it may be hard for Hunter Yurachek to find a qualified candidate. He may be having a hard time finding somebody that everybody he talks to goes, you don't have any money, I don't want to go there. I'm not saying that's what it is.
Right.
But I have to put that in as a possibility.
And I think you're right a little bit on that. I think there's some of that there. But getting somebody in like Molly Miller, who is a name that right now your fan base, it's a hot name in women's basketball. It's a hot name when it comes to all these coaching searches. If you can land somebody like that, you would hope that it would help with NIL, getting those boosters to give more money.
And
hoping
again,
to
it's
set
not.
that
It's
person
really
up.
not going to be NIL. It's going to be how much revenue sharing. And we're told that basketball will be included in the revenue sharing at Arkansas.
We were told by Mike Neighbors himself
Right.
that he was told that women's basketball would get a piece of the pie. I asked him that before he left. He said, absolutely. I've had meetings with Hunter. I've had meetings with the administration. We believe that women's basketball, because they were featured in that lawsuit, that they will get a piece of the pie. That's what we heard from him, so we'll see if that's still the case. Let's hope it is, but I agree with you there on that, Mike. Whippersnapper asked, if we're not able to get an already proven head coach for the women's job, who would you pick to get an assistant from? Oh, interesting question. And then we have a couple different
Three, really.
Three, yes, there you go. Dawn Staley, Kim Mulkey, or Vic Schaefer.
Yeah, okay. So South Carolina, LSU, or Texas.
Yeah, right.
All right. Grant Hall, I've known Grant for
We love Grant.
49 years.
Big viewer of the show. Shout out to
was
Grant.
a sports editor of the Fayetteville paper for many years and then Springdale paper. Semi-retired these days. Grant Hall says that Vic Schaefer has an outstanding assistant coach.
I've heard the same thing.
And he said she would be very good, but he, like me, is skeptical that that's what will happen at this point, that Hunter will probably hire a head coach.
Yeah. I think that they need someone to lead this program right now who has head coaching experience. I wouldn't go for an assistant coach that may pan out really great or could also go
Yeah, you're
an
taking
opposite
you're taking
direction.
a real risk when you do that.
You are. Dr. Strangeborg says, and I love this question, by the way, what a shame Oliver Miller passed away at such a young age. He passed away last week at the age of 54. And Mike, do you have any stories about Big O?
Yeah, a lot of them, but one that's, you always talk about something that stays in your mind. In the 1990 Elite Eight or Midwest Regional Finals at Reunion Arena in Dallas, Arkansas was playing Texas. The thing you have to understand about Oliver Miller, he was from Texas, and what a lot of Razorback fans don't understand, and I learned this when I got here, they don't like Texas here. If you're a Razorback fan, this is a big thing going back decades. They don't like Texas.
They definitely don't.
But some of them are very surprised when they find out that someone from Texas doesn't like Texas. And I used to have to tell people all the time, look, there's a whole lot more people in Texas that don't like the Longhorns than do like them. And when they don't like them, they really don't like them. Oliver Miller was one of those guys. He did not like the Longhorns. And even to the point where he would try to play mind games. And what he would do, and I talked to Nolan about this, and he was okay with it, Oliver would just pop off in press conferences before games. Just
No
say,
way.
Oh, he'd say terrible things about them. They're not any good. They can't stop me. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And he would
So
always.
he wasn't media trained.
And he would, no, he got into their heads. They'd just get all mad and try to do this and that, and then he would just beat them anyway.
Okay.
And the whole team would, but he would play well. Well, in the press conference before that, and you got to understand, this is in Dallas, but it's Texas versus Arkansas for the right to go to the Final Four. Team that wins that game goes to the Final Four in Denver. So they had the press conference, and even Nolan admitted later on, he kind of went, oh no, because Oliver went whack-a-mole on this one. He went way over what he normally did. And so I was kind of worried about that, and he didn't play all that well. I think he ended up scoring like 9 points, maybe had 9 rebounds in that game. And so I'm thinking, uh-oh, that if they lose this, O's going to get blamed for this. This won't be good. But Arkansas was ahead for most of the game and appeared to be comfortably ahead, except as it got down toward the end of the game, it got down from 12 points to 10 points, and then it was going to go to, it was at 6 points, and it could go to 4 because Texas had the ball. And again, O hadn't done a whole lot. But they tried a shot and missed it, I'm trying to remember this.
Okay.
But I remember he grabbed the rebound off the backboard and turned around, and it was just like, whoo, whoo. It happened that fast. He turned around and threw a laser strike. It was like he shot a missile out of his hand, and it went past half court, and there was Todd Day, and he just went down, and I think he may have missed the shot, and somebody else put it back up. There were 2 of them down there. And so Arkansas went back up by 8.
Okay.
That was significant because I think they ended up winning the game by 3. But they were really losing momentum until that happened, and that was a huge play. When it was over, Oliver got the rebound after the last shot, and he went around the arena, and he would just grab one of his teammates. It's just a random guy. Okay, I'm going to grab this guy, and he would take him over to the edge of he would just point up into the and point at him, and they would be waving around. Then he'd go grab another guy and go over to the other side, and he had this biggest grin on his face you've ever seen. And then he'd go over here, and then he'd go over there, and he just went, it lasted for like 15 minutes just going around, grabbing a teammate. Hey, look what we did. And I think he was happy because he knew he was off the hook too. But he said in an interview with Bo Mattingly that they put up, after he had died, Bo put this up, and it was, I don't know when it was done, it was fairly recent. But Bo asked him, what do you want Razorback fans most to remember about you? And he said, I want them to remember my smile, because he had an awesome smile. But I think what they remember more about than his smile is he beat Texas.
Yes, I was exactly.
And he made them like it.
Oh my gosh! But he had a big smile on his face after that too.
He did after that.
Oh my gosh! I love when he said that. That got me in my feels, because the first time I got to chat with Oliver Miller, I just remember how kind he was and just how cool
Super
he
nice
was.
guy.
So nice, and I did remember his smile. So that's one thing I'll remember about him for sure. Razor Alex 88 asks, what are your thoughts on the hiring of Remy Cofield as the U of A GM of athletics? Coming from the Celtics, sounds like an outstanding hire, although I have never heard of him before today.
Well, he's listed as the director of scouting or something like that, but if you look at his bio, he was also the GM of their G League
Yeah,
team.
the main Celtics, yeah.
So he's had that job of GM. Now, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean because he's director of scouting, it doesn't mean he's going to go scout somebody or anything like that. They want him for his negotiating ability. The fact that he's been in there, he's negotiated with guys over salaries and other issues that have to do with their contracts. And so that's why he's being brought in. It's not as a lot of fans think he's being brought in as a scout or some kind of recruiter or something like that. He can't recruit. There's only so many people that are allowed to recruit.
No.
So that's not what that is. But I guess he had a long history of being in their front office, and he's seen certain things. He knows how things work. And obviously, college athletics is about to become more like pro athletics in that you're going to have contracts, you're going to have a salary cap, you have to fit things within a salary cap, and you need somebody that's experienced in having to deal with all those issues.
Yeah, what I was told, because a lot of people have asked about, it's all athletics, and what I was told is, yes, he will oversee all athletics. So, and they wanted someone with front office experience in a pro sport to do that. Now, every school is doing it differently,
A little bit
right?
differently.
But Arkansas is doing it differently as well. Is that other schools have hired a specific GM for football, for basketball, and those two I've seen most what they've been hiring for. Arkansas is going to hire him for all sports. And what they're going to do is they're going to have under him different people that are going to be for each sport, right? So he's going to have a guy under him that works directly with football. He's going to have a guy under him or girl under him that works directly for basketball. Same thing with maybe women's sports as well. They'll have their own too. And so that's how it was explained to me. What I was told as well is he won't have a single hand in any of the scouting or recruiting,
Yeah,
like
that,
you just
that's
said.
coming up in the next
Oh,
question.
it is?
too.
Okay, sorry. But yes, that's what I was told too. Top Hog 19 says there's talk that the GM will be involved in talent evaluation and recruiting, but we didn't hire a football guy. Is he a football, basketball, or all sports?
Yeah,
so I just
so
explained
he's all
that.
sports.
I'm sorry.
He's all sports. He's not a recruiter. And I think my car salesman analogy a couple of weeks ago still applies.
Okay.
You go in to buy a car. There's a guy on the floor. He's a salesman. You see the car you want. You look at the sticker on the window, and then you start negotiating with this guy. Okay, this guy knows basically what the dealership wants for that car. He's going to try to get you to accept more, but he kind of knows what the bottom line is, but not totally. So if you're pretty good at this, you might get him down, and then you want him to go a little more down, and here's what he will do. He'll say, I got to go talk to my sales manager. So he will go in another room. You don't see this. He'll talk to the guy, and he'll come back and say yes, no, whatever. That's sort of what this guy will do. Only it will be, and it's not clear to me if, I assume that parents could come in there and negotiate if they wanted to.
Yes.
I think the athlete can do it, or they can have an agent.
Yeah.
But this has to do with, first of all, you've got Hunter Yurachek, who's in charge of the whole pool of money, because there's a $20,500,000 available for every school. It's the same pot. And you've got the flexibility to negotiate for a quarterback as opposed to a running back or whatever. And so they're not going to give the same amount of money to every player. They just can't go over the total. Okay, so this guy will generally know, having contact with Hunter Yurachek, he'll have a good overall idea of what each sport has available to it.
Absolutely.
Then he's going to talk to the coaches. And this will happen in recruiting, but it will also happen when you've already got somebody on campus and their contract runs out and they're still going to be there. You would have to know what, let's say, let's give an example. Let's say you're recruiting a wide receiver.
Sure.
And you're talking to him and he says some stuff about money, and you say to him, you're the coach recruiting him, you say, well, we'll let you talk to our GM when you get on campus on your official visit. So on the official visit, he goes in with either himself, his parents, an agent, or whatever, and he sits down and starts saying, well, I think I want, $22,000 because this school over here offered me 21, and
Sure.
if I want to come here, I get 22, or whatever it is. And this particular person at Arkansas, and maybe it's the person under him because it would be for football or basketball or whatever, would say, well, we've only got slotted about 20,000 for you, so you're asking for too much. And he may sit there and, well, you're not going to get me if you don't do that. So he might go do what? He goes and talks to the sales manager. In this case, it's the coach. Yeah. And the coach has to decide, if I give him more, I'm going to have to give this guy less or this guy less. Yeah. Can I do that? But if he decides he's worth it, then he would tell that particular person, the GM, or the person under the GM, yeah, go out and tell him he can get 23 or whatever he does.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is, in none of these negotiations does the athlete negotiate with the coaches. They just don't want them to do that because they want the coaches to coach.
Because can you imagine, as a 22-year-old kid, right, who they look up to these coaches. They look at them like sometimes father figures and things like that as a family member. And can you imagine a family member going, you're not worth that to me?
Yeah.
They can't
it's just
separate
unseemly.
it. Exactly. So they can't separate it.
And they're probably not stupid enough to believe that it's not coming from the coaches, but it's still not them saying that to you.
But here's what I've been told, even further than that. It may not even where you have to go back to the coach, because the coaches are going to sit down with the GM, and the GM's going to go, all right, who do we want the most? Out of give me your guys, who do you want the most? And they're going to rank them, right? They're going to rank them. So they're going to work harder for that number one guy. But if you're 10 or 11th on the list, can we get him? Can we not?
Yeah.
You're going to identify, the coach is going to already identify, these are the main targets. These are the guys that we're willing to negotiate a little bit more with. These are the guys that if they walk, it's okay, right? That's kind of what it's going to be.
So the athletic director decides the big picture.
Correct.
That total number of money available.
Correct.
And how much goes to each sport.
Correct.
Then within a sport, it's going to be it could be the overall agent, it could be the person underneath him for that sport, but that person will be dealing with the athletes directly, but he won't just walk in there and do whatever he wants to do. He's got to talk with the coaches beforehand.
Absolutely.
And if he needs to go back, he goes back to talk to them, but he doesn't allow the athlete to go in there and talk to the coach about money.
Nope,
That's how this all works.
I couldn't have explained it better myself. The car salesman analogy is a good one. I like that for people.
Coaches become the general sales manager.
There you go. There you go. Pig's Feet wants to know, how can Arkansas's men's track and field team be knocked out of the 4x400 meter and a chance of a national championship and have no recourse?
Okay, you saw this.
Oh, yeah.
I'll briefly explain it. You
Yeah.
got Arkansas in a relay, and if they win this event, they probably win a national championship. But somewhere along the way, a runner from A&M cuts in front, bumps them off the track, and drops the baton. Okay, and then they don't really they kind of run, but they're not trying after that because they think, okay,
Because they're not going to win.
they're not going to win. So there was some talk by the officials after the thing was over. There was some talk by the meet officials, and I'm sure he was probably talking to Coach Bucknam, and he said, you know what? They said, yeah, this is a really weird set of circumstances. We think the best solution may be to let you guys run this thing over by yourself. You all already be tired, but if you want to run it over and you think you can do better, we'll do it against time. And so it looked like for a while that was what was going to happen. But the NCAA, being the crummy bunch of people they are, stepped in and said no.
Yeah, Texas A&M got disqualified, which is usually what happens in those situations, right? So Texas A&M, they get DQ'd, right? The whole idea was that this cost Arkansas the meet.
Right.
What happened, okay?
Very unusual.
It was very unusual. Now, there were some people saying they had never seen them even think about allowing them to rerun the race. And Arkansas, they went over to Chris Buckman. This is all the drama that was going on. They went over to Coach Buck, and Coach Buck said, I think it was Coach Buck or Coach Case that said, we will run it as many times as you want. This is how passionate we feel about you letting us rerun this race. But they were going to let them rerun on the track, just them, like you said, and use the time. The problem with that comes in, and this was what they were talking about in the broadcast, how fair is that, right? Because then everyone else, they got to run it alone. They didn't have to deal with any of the other runners on the track, which is a normal thing you deal with in a race of that, in a 4x400. So, in any race, but especially in a 4x400. So it's like, is that fair? That's what they were they couldn't make the decision.
Yeah, they would have gotten an argument for the other teams.
Yeah, but then USC ended up winning the meet, and again, there's a lot of people in the track world, right, who've said USC is always going to kind of have a little asterisk by that, because Arkansas definitely could have won that meet, was probably going to, with the way their 4x400 team had been running. And so does USC always know that indoor title was because of all the craziness that went on in that 4x400?
There's video of of Bucknam going back to his guys and explaining it to them. And he said, guys, in the end, there was just nothing we could do.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm telling you. You got to just accept it. Here's what I want you to do. Forget about it. Let's start getting ready to win the outdoor.
Absolutely. He was like, flush it, just get ready. It was heartbreaking, though, to watch in progress. And if you want to see any of the video we're talking about, it's over on my social media page. So if you guys want to go over there and look at what we're talking about. Mousetown says, after the first week of SEC play, it looks like Arkansas is down in 5th place with 3 other teams. Not good for the number 3 team in the nation. Our best pitchers got rocked by Ole Miss.
Yeah, well, Arkansas is still number 1. It didn't hurt them.
Yeah,
they didn't drop.
Yeah.
The 3 teams the 4 teams that swept other teams. I would say Tennessee's impressive. They swept Florida. Florida's good.
Yeah.
That was the most impressive thing over the week. But they were at home.
True.
Okay. Alabama, who did they sweep? Was it Mississippi State? Yeah.
I think it. They swept Texas A&M, didn't they? Didn't Alabama?
That's right. Alabama went to College Station
yes.
and swept A&M. A&M is like a mystery. It's
they
like
are
they started the
this
season
year.
#1. They're not even ranked anymore.
Nope, because they lost a lot of games.
So I take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Yeah, you went on the road and got a sweep, but you played a team that's not beating anybody right now.
Yeah.
So you got to reduce that a little bit. LSU's, they were at home against Missouri. Come on, what'd you expect them to lose a game to those guys?
Yeah.
They have a losing record. Missouri may be the only team in the SEC that has an overall losing record.
Oh.
And LSU is #2 in the country. So that wasn't unexpected.
Okay.
The team you need to keep an eye on is Texas, because Texas went to Mississippi State and swept.
Yes.
Mississippi State's not what they've been lately either. They're okay, but Texas went in there and swept them, and they've got Schmackel who left A&M. Schmagel.
You almost got it right. You almost got it right there.
All that controversy from last year, but he looks like he's doing a good job there. Arkansas gets to play them here later on. They also get to play Tennessee here. So those are going to be tough home series. But let's talk about Arkansas. Their hitting is really good. They scored 30 runs in 3 games. And they needed to score 30 runs in 3 games because they gave up 22 runs. And what was kind of weird about that series was Arkansas's best pitchers pitched the worst. Yeah. Now Gackle, he had trouble the week before. He actually gave up 2 runs in his first inning. I think he may have given up a home run right off the bat. But he settled down. So he's the one of the 3 starters that actually did okay. He pitched 4 innings. He just pitched threw so many pitches in the first inning, he didn't stay there as long. But he did okay. But the other 2 guys, Root, and you can pronounce this name for me.
Landon Beidelshees?
Beidelshees.
I got you.
If you watch them like most fans have throughout the season, it wasn't Ole Miss's hitters. They were grooving the ball. They were either missing and getting behind in the count, and then I got to bring it down the middle of the plate. They hit something like 4 or 5 home runs off those 2 guys. And that's where a lot of those runs were scored. It's too early to panic. Both of them were on the mound for the first time in an SEC game, and they were on the road. A lot of people have said to me that Van Horn probably needs to schedule at least one road. They're always going to go to Arlington if they can, because Arlington likes them and they like Arlington.
Yeah.
I mean, that's early. That's in February when the weather can be bad no matter where you are. Well, when you're in an indoor stadium, the weather's not going to affect you. So they're always going to play that game if they're invited.
Yeah.
But I've had people say to me, Van Horn used to go out west to California, or he'd go to Arizona, or go down south Louisiana, or somewhere down. Maybe he needs to do that at least once, so his pitchers will have pitched, on the road, away from home, and all of that. But there's still no way to simulate the SEC for guys that have never pitched in the SEC, even if they were starting pitchers at other schools. So let's see how they bounce back. They're going to play South Carolina.
Yeah.
South Carolina scored something like 20-something runs over the weekend. They lost 2 of 3, but they did score a lot of runs. So you're going to be facing some guys that can hit, and we'll see if they bounce back. I'm betting that they will. Yeah. Keep in mind, Gackle was struggling, and then he's not. Yeah. After that first inning, he looked okay, so I think he may be fine. We just got to get Root and Beidelshees. I got you. We got to get both of them pitching back like they have been. And then I think if you get good pitching, the hitting is, they're up to like 318 or something with the team bat. They haven't had a 318 batting average this far into the season. I don't know where. Yeah. They've hit 46 home runs. That's tied for 3rd or something in the SEC.
It's crazy, I know.
They can score runs, and the way they came back, especially in that Sunday game. And by the way, we're sitting in here over there in the corner. Yeah. And so we've got the Arkansas baseball game on, but we've also got the selection show on. And we're going back and forth because you don't want to miss if Arkansas gets picked, because we got to get on the air and talk about it. But you also got to talk about the baseball game, and it goes down to the 9th inning, and Arkansas has to come from behind, and it's down to the last out, and then they score, and they tie it up, and then they take a 2-run lead or something like that, and then you got to sit there and watch Arkansas come out pitching-wise.
Yeah.
And Carson Wiggins had to come out, and a true freshman is on the mound that has to save your bacon. And it all worked out great.
It did. I think
It was just great drama.
I will say so. It was great drama. I will say something because it was drama in the selection show too, where they had to wait 30,
I'm sitting there
30
looking at
something
when,
minutes.
when that last bracket popped up, and I see the 10,
Yep, the 10 seed.
10, what was it, 10-7, 10, what?
Yeah,
what?
7-10 matchup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10, when I saw that, I went, if that's not Arkansas, they're not in.
Well, that's what I said too. I said Kansas popped up, and I said, all right, I think this is Arkansas. This has to be Arkansas. It has to be.
Well, that Lenardi did pick that matchup. He just said it would be in Lexington.
Yeah, it could have been, and maybe it should have been. I liked your idea of going to Wichita, but I didn't see a lot of people predicting that. But I will say this. It was drama in the selection show, drama in the baseball game, and if you watch Dave Van Horn after his post-game press conference, I think he was a little annoyed that everyone was at the Calipari press conference, and there was only 2 guys on his press conference after they had won the series that way.
Yeah.
So I will give a little love to Dave. Don't worry.
Yeah, welcome to Baseball and Selection Sunday.
Exactly. Come on, Dave. There's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
we'll give some love to baseball there, and especially coming up this week. But that's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. Don't forget to like this video and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. It really does help us out. So make sure you do that right now and comment below whatever you want. Comment what your favorite, I don't know, what your favorite day of the week is. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Can we get
Just
a
comment.
spy to go into that selection room and see if they really
Mike,
do?
we're not getting a spy to go in the
To see
selection room.
if
No,
they
we're
really,
not.
because maybe they don't drink. Maybe they're drinking Pepsi. Maybe
Oh, if they're drinking Pepsi, I'm judging
it would
them.
be just like them to drink Pepsi.
I'm judging them if they're drinking Pepsi.
And maybe they don't have maybe they're eating McDonald's or tacos from Taco whatever.
Taco Bell, tacos from Taco Bell.
Maybe it's not what I think it is, but I would like to know.
Okay.
If they're in there just messing around.
All right, maybe we'll get on that. Next week we'll give you an update if we have a spy to spy on the next year's selection committee as they're doing their jobs. Okay, that's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next Monday to answer your questions.